live streams, the meeting is recorded, and the meeting is public. You go.
Okay, so this slide then, Sarah. Okay, so we previously set this out. This is just really a recap of where we're at. So we have had a few sort of scene-setting meetings with council. We've had a few budget workshops, and obviously we had the digitalisation conversation that we're aware of, which was recently completed. So now the opportunity to talk to the board. So today really is hearing where we're at. There will be a bit of information that comes to you today. It's all Sarah sent out the slides. There's going to be an opportunity for you to process it, reflect on it. What we're going to do at your next meeting is we can have another workshop if required, but there will be a paper that comes to your workshop on the initial budget input from this board. So following digitalisation, that really is the grants stuff, but an opportunity also through that mechanism, if there's anything particularly going to be feeding through the council, so we can look at what that looks like following this meeting. But there will be opportunities for this board throughout the whole process to feed in. Obviously, we want a process where the board feeds into it rather than submitting to the LTP. That doesn't make much sense. We want to take your feedback and have that in front of the council as they make the decisions around what they're going to go out and consult on and what the final budget looks like. So, if need be, if we're feeling after today in our meeting in December that there's still some unresolved matters that the Teviot wants more information on, further information, we can schedule another workshop in. So please don't feel that this is your only opportunity. But on that note, I'm going to hand over.
Because there's some parts of it that aren't even in this. There are some parts of the LTP that aren't in what we're seeing today.
Yeah, Three Waters is
Which is quite a large part of it.
Yeah, so Three Waters unfortunately duties on leave, so that will come to your next meeting. And we don't tend to bring to boards and council get this information as a package, but essentially what we call sort of the corporate overhead accounts, because the cost of doing annual plans, finance, IS, that is a cost. Special projects do go up to council, so CCTV is definitely, I know, interest of this board. There is some budget in here at this stage to progress some of that work. So beyond that, those corporate accounts are pretty BAU, really. But if you want more information on that, of course, we can bring it.
Yeah, and I suppose just on that point, Mark, as well, as we were communicating earlier, this is your introduction to the topics. There will likely be questions that will come out over the next month or longer. As Sar says, this is the start of the conversation.
Okay.
Yeah. Nice. Rebecca.
So yeah, this is just an opportunity to talk about the community outcomes. So some of you will recall, hopefully all of you recall, last year we embarked on the Shaping Tomorrow Together project, where we went out across the district to ask the community about their thoughts and vision for 50 years into the future. And so what the process, so we had about 1,000, we had workshops in each of the wards. We had a youth focused workshop, a workshop with those from different cultural backgrounds. And then we had a number of stakeholder sessions that then developed a questionnaire, of which 1,000 people signed up to participate in the process, and of them 500 actually did, which we were still really happy with because we frozen service. And it wasn't a really short one. What that gave us was some really rich data about where people want to see, what's important to the people-centred Otago. And from that, we have formed up the community outcomes. So community outcomes are a critical part of the long-term plan. They really set the scene for what is it that we're hoping to be into the future, and why do these 10-year budgets matter? Well, 9-year budget in this case. And so it is high level, it is visionary, and we have had two, so there's been a couple, first there was a workshop about the data from the research, that was in July, and that was reported and available online, and weren't able to see it and are interested. And that's from the research company, which is Angus and Associates. And so it's useful for people who like to hear about literature and stuff, but it's not everybody's cup of tea. But, and many will say, oh, there's nothing surprising in there, which is a good thing, right? Because it means that we're connected well with our community and we're not surprised by when we collect the data to show that. So community outcomes really set those, the high level vision for your budget. And the mission here is to enable a safe, healthy and thriving community environment. That's the point. That's why we get out of here. Our role, council's role, is to provide leadership, good quality local infrastructure, public services and regulatory functions, and to support local economic growth and development. When doing this, it is mindful of rising costs and aims to deliver its services well with affordability in mind. It provides these services to meet the needs of the community as expressed in the following community outcomes. This statement was put in following the initial workshop with council. So
You were at that one, Mark. You made the point about affordability.
Yeah. So we talked about
Thank you.
the 4 outcomes, and they said, look, affordability isn't highlighted enough, nor is what our role, what is our role as council. And so this statement is modelled a little bit what we're anticipating the new purpose statement of local government is going to come through the new government. Plus we've put affordability front and centre and talked about those services that are affordable for all. And so then underneath that statement, we have the 4 community outcomes, which being respect for the environment, increased economic
2 minutes.
prosperity, robust social fabric and expressions of culture. And under each of those, we have the statement that explains what the outcome we're trying to achieve in that area and how we as council deliver to that outcome. So for instance, in that economic prosperity one, you've got the activities throughout the organisation that contribute to it, like roading, for instance. Part of the function of roading is to enable economic development and growth. So yeah, that's where we've got to. The council hasn't formally been ratified, but it went back to a second workshop, and I'm busy. I've done the first paragraph of the report to get it to a council meeting, hopefully this calendar year. So yeah, that's just really to set the scene for you about that, and that the data that was used to build it is robust from that research. So any question? Oh, sorry, this last final is what the community outcomes were. So they were thriving economy, sustainable environment and connected community. And so we've expanded that out to put that culture back in as a standalone, just to reflect the importance of our place, really. That's it. Thanks.
Awesome.
On back
Well
on
done. Bang on time.
And go to the graph. It has all the excellent. Yeah. So this one here, just from for your own point of view, these are the range of activities that council has to deliver during the LTP. The fact that council activity that this council does, all councils deliver these things. The tick just says that actually we have some discretion. Council has some discretion in how it chooses to do that, and the cross says actually pretty much you don't have discretion. You've just got to do it. And so there's functions of council there that we have to do. Food safety is for one. We have to deliver food safety, environmental health, noise control, those sorts of things. And there's not much scope. So where we look for savings, if we were to look for savings, it's probably in the where the ticks are. Can we amend the levels of service? And that's a conversation we'll have with councillors next workshop, middle of November, to say, okay, these are the activities, these are the levels of service. Do you want to adjust? We had a discussion yesterday around museums. There was an option potentially to reduce the levels of service. I think what we've decided there is actually museums will probably be status quo, but funded by council. And so that essentially saying we'll keep the same level of service for now. It might pitch up, it might pitch down at later times. But so that's a sort of conversation that we'll have. Community halls up there. There's a conversation with the wider district around community halls. We've got a few. Do we need them all? Do we not need them all? So it's about whether we amend that level of service to that community by not upgrading that hall for the earthquake strengthening and disposing of it. So council has some discretion in some of the areas. So that's when we look to put the option before council as we were doing these workshops, is trying to get a handle of where's councils and some of this here. Does it want to maintain status quo? Do you want to draw back some areas and reduce costs? And this is what it would, but that's the next conversation we have. And the next slide.
So, just going back to the example that you put in here of food safety, when you're looking at council priorities, saying that food safety is
Wow.
something that we must.
I'm saying food safety is we actually have no discretion. Council has to deliver environmental health, which includes food safety.
Is it out of our core business?
Doesn't matter. By the Act, we have to do it. Which someone has to go out and look at every coffee shop at least once in a 3-year cycle and make sure that they're meeting the health obligations under the Health and Safety Food Act, I think.
So we would.
It's cool. No, Lee's right here. He can answer that one.
Oi.
Food safety.
Obligation to undertake that.
So we have no discretion as to whether we participate in that.
No, whatsoever in relation to that. The only
It makes it
discretion-
harder.
Animal control. All councils have to have a count by law.
The MP do the same thing, though.
Yeah, so a lot of these stuff gets pushed onto council, and we have to do it. By the law, we have to do it.
So Peter,
Military.
once we've decided what we're going to do, how can we be, confident enough to go to people and say, and the council get it at the best price? Your
Yeah,
acquisition cost,
well,
how,
no, it's a good point.
price might be the only.
So like
you want
yesterday,
as well.
council had 2 papers come to them around the procurement of our reticulated services for water. And the other one was procurement of it. So, I mean, and the way we do that is every 3 years we come to council, or every 6 years, depending on the contract, and say, we are going to go back out and tender this contract. We're going to go to the market and test the current assumptions with the market, and then they will price that and tell us what it's going to cost. That's the way we get value for money, is by going to the market every 3 to 6 years.
3 years, you let a contract for.
Yeah, we might give a contract for 3 + 3 or something like that.
Yeah.
But at the end of that term, whatever that is, we have to go to the market.
And there's just recently been the procurement policy that's been reviewed.
Yeah.
Updated through council, which is also part of that process.
Some of the slightly borders, they have to be long enough that the person that's going to take on that contract can scale up. So it couldn't be for a year. They wouldn't be able to.
And cheapness isn't necessarily best.
Yeah.
No,
That's right.
well, that was the discussion we had yesterday. wasn't it?
Yeah.
That's right.
Price was 40% on the contract, and not, some suggest it should be 60%, but then that means it dominates the contract.
Exactly. What's the?
Anyway, so the next workshop, we will be discussing levels of service. So an example would be the outside swimming pool, the outdoor pool. Do we stop that and decommission it? That would save $200,000 a year to the rater.
People want to swim inside, they can come to us.
We've got a pretty good one.
I think, yeah, that's the sort of thing that Burns was one, wasn't it? That was one you decided. We're going to reduce the level of service for Burns inside Rock. And that's on a broader scale, that's what council will be deciding across a whole range of it. So that's like, all right. And we want to look at a bit of revenue as well, because we just don't want to be targeting ratepayers. So what are some of the other options that we have around raising revenue? There'll be something we'll see about route reform.
Where do you sort of sit, in the debate in terms of raising revenue, where potentially you might get involved in something that might compete with private enterprise? How do you navigate through that?
Yeah, do we compete with private enterprise at the
Or is
moment?
it just a no? It's just like we will never do it.
Possibly in the space of land development, we did. That would be
Oh, yeah,
probably
yeah.
the only one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even if, like with the new Commonwealth Memorial Hall, we'll go out to the market to find a cafe that's going there, make us money. Well, that's going to then compete with the coffee shops in Old Town
Yeah.
Cromwell, but it's bringing revenue into for the rate part. So it's good.
Yeah, well, I mean, I agree. I mean, at some point you just got to say, look, we've got to have some other forms of revenue, because
Yep.
going down the path that we're going at the moment of rates only, or primarily rates and borrowing as a backstop, it's just going to get worse and worse, because the costs are just going to go up and up and up. So I think you've got to broaden the net, and inevitably that will mean that, you know, well, not inevitably, but potentially you get into some competitive environment. And I think you just got to bite that bullet, I'd say. And if the council can do it more effectively and more efficiently and make money for everyone, so be it. I mean, that's what big corporations do. They compete, they use their market power, they use their influence, they use their skill sets, they use their IP. And those are all the things that the council has, you know, and you have some investment in equipment and materials and land and buildings that can be a baseline for revenue producing activities. And I think we should look broader into some of those things, rather than going, well, we will never do that. I think those days have got to be gone.
Yeah, no, thanks. So there is no hard and fast rule in council that you wouldn't consider anything. Everything's on the table at the moment, and you can see through that list there are different opportunities for generating revenue, and those are the ones that are on, I guess, top of mind right now. But of course, there could be many more.
Well, there's the element I spoke before about the cost of being a host community. Is not, I believe, there should be a way of initiating some cost recovery from those travellers that come through. For example, using the toilets. Is there a charge for using the public toilets? It's probably one of the few countries in the world that don't charge.
Yeah.
So there's opportunities like that as well that wouldn't necessarily be a normal.
No, we are
stream.
definitely looking at visitor levies in some way, shape, or form. Possibly not the charging at a toilet, because you you potentially create an adverse effect, which is I won't pay my dollar, I'll pay against the wall, which is the adverse effect that we may create. But if we can create a more systematic approach to things, which is some kind of visitor levy, we think that's probably a better approach. But that's one of the options being considered.
Has anyone tried a voluntary donation box for toilets? Because if you've got a mentality of all the international visitors that are just used to putting a dollar in the box, you might find that.
I think you'll find in the valley, particularly, I don't have the numbers, but I'd probably judge 90% of your visitors are domestic. It'd be a very small portion would be international that would be creating an issue.
There's a lot of
customers.
A lot of Chinese.
Yeah. But in terms of those creating the problem,
I say we are trying to explore
anyway,
other revenue.
there are other revenue options, and visitor levies is absolutely one of those.
Yeah, I mean, it's good that we are pleased with that.
Right now, it's done. Right now we move into you. The board's priorities. So I know Norman, you and I have had a brief chat around master plan thinking.
Yeah, I mean, we've managed to attend a number of the workshops and got some idea of what investments being made in infrastructure and the reasons why it would be the way it's landed, within 3 waters and so forth. And we took on board what that might be. We also sort of stood back and go, so what does this community need? And where we've landed is that we believe that the future of our community and its, I guess, its ability to be a host community, which we, in terms of our economic development, we, I guess we host not only travellers but workers. And so the facilities that we provide on a global valley scale are quite important. And for us to develop cohesively over the next 10 years, if we had a master plan It would give, I guess, the energy that is put into the community via the various community groups, as Sally was talking about, and Sally's been hugely involved in this, what we call the trails and all those sorts. A bigger picture, and Mark's involvement in now in prospects and in the Miller's Flat area. Start taking a bigger picture for people to channel their energies into in a cohesive way. So we're looking, yes, to gain from the LTP some support, particularly financially, to get this master plan driven by the board and community together. I think that's our first step. What comes out of that in terms of CapEx requirements and that sort of thing, and how we, I guess, how we fund any growth development that we have for facility. Can be determined, I think, in an earlier discussion, I said that it would be nice to steer it away, the demand of the CapEx away from the ratepayer into the, I guess, the realms of the CLTs of the world and the Otago Trust, where external funding can be sourced. And by having our master plan and our, I guess, areas of focus, we can present to those organisations about that this is where we want to take. It's not just a one-off piecemeal project that's being driven by one of the groups in the community. It's part of the strategy. Do you have anything you want to add to that now?
Yeah, I agree with what I said. I think that we need to make the place an attractive looking place when people come in. So if you said, we run a ward system and Cromwell people looking to try and make Cromwell look good, and Alexandra ward trying to make that area fun and Manitoba. Well, it's up to us here to make this place look good. No one's going to come to us and say, hey, can I help you make the place look good? And looking good is the starting point for it being good. And attracting people to live here and attracting economic growth and social growth. So we've got to have a plan for that. And I think our town, when you drive into our town, it looks like it's dying. We've got to arrest that and come up with a plan and say, okay, here's what you would need to do. Here are the steps you need to take to improve the look of this town and the feel of this town. Following on that will be the implementation of that potentially, but that's even further down the track. But I see over the next year or two us trying to build a plan that is like a master plan that says, here's what it could look like. If you want it to look like this, these are the steps you'd have to take, and these are the things you'd have to do. And the plan may put some costs on that, or may not, but that might be stage two, is getting some feeling around the table as to whether that's a good plan, and then going and costing it, and then saying, well, to achieve all that, is that council's responsibility, or is it private enterprise's responsibility, or is it the community in some way, or is it a public-private partnership, or whatever? It's no secret that there's some pretty dowdy looking buildings in town, and the opportunity to improve some of our open spaces.
Yeah.
So-
Having a plan is the first thing.
Can I just, clarify one thing so I understand as well? And I wasn't just thinking, we've got the Roxburgh community plan scheduled to come in next year, but what you're talking about is a Teviot Valley master plan, right? Not just a Roxburgh plan. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Some valley.
Yeah.
Vision, if you like.
Yeah, cool.
Well, we can we can put as much detail into it as we wish or not, but to have the roadmap for the next 10 years, I think is really important. And people can decide as they go through on the detail, you know, what form the mountain bike tracks might take or what form the development in the main street might take. So 5 years ago, when I first joined community board, there was $100,000 coming in from NCPA to do the work on the main street. There were two groups trying to organise themselves as to what to put in there. Nothing happened, and then NCPA pretty much driving it. If we had a plan, that might have happened a lot easier and a lot of the different outcomes for it.
I think that the open spaces policy, you know, part of that for the Teviot could be really good to be in that plan. So that then, as part of that, it could be like our walking group that's planting natives at the moment, you know, that would be something that would be encouraged within the plan, but that actually doesn't cost the ratepayer. We don't have to do much to make that happen. So there would be some quite low cost things that we could do as well.
Those sort of gives people visibility about we're not spending ratepayers' money doing that, because it can be perceived that that sort of funding is coming out of rate when it's not.
It'd be nice to have somebody locally that does, like a nursery, the plants that are planted here
They come from Alex.
but it'd be nice to, you know, be able to open up a little bit of a local opportunity.
More people.
And then Hardy,
So that's one part of our I guess our want from the LTP, but on the flip side too, we've got a spatial plan that has been developed for more growth than what would be normally planned for in a spatial plan. I think there's another 500 homes. We would like to think that the research that's gone into the forward investment in our infrastructure will not constrain that growth. Would that be a way of describing that, Mark? You know, the discussions that you and I have had sort of go fantastic that the plan is providing for growth in the valley, but is the investment plan going to match that?
Yeah.
Investment plan and council needs to be able to, I guess, encourage people to come and invest here as opposed to constraining them.
So plan change 19 reflects content. It enabled plans for growth in the district after I can't remember the time frame, and accommodates growth. But it accommodates it in a way that we can develop infrastructure. Alex is an example. There's some parts where growth can occur in parts of Alex, but we developed infrastructure. And so it's set in sort of stages, because what you don't want is growth coming. And what's happened in the place, 3 places in Auckland now with 500 plus homes are having to truck sewage down the road to the wastewater treatment plant, because Auckland City Council aren't in a position to develop wastewater treatment connections to them. So growth has to be managed in a way that we can accommodate and build for it, because we just don't want people establishing 5,000 houses on the rural block down the road there when they connect us up. So plan change 19 takes care of future growth in the district, but in a way that council can manage the growth requirements.
So
Aren't we already in that situation where our wastewater is, and it's max, actually going through once Quailhaven is full, that's the max capacity for our, is that not?
Not my understanding from the presentation Julie recently provided was that actually there's quite a bit of capacity in your wastewater system.
Okay.
But Julie will provide that confirmation when she provides her update. But yeah, the water system, my understanding is you have a lot of capacity to allow for the growth that's planned for the spatial plan.
So
It's within Roxburgh.
when Julie made the presentation at the Three Waters workshop, she spoke about, and I want the title of the plan they had initiated. It was like a blueprint, or where they could identify pressure points in the infrastructure in the township. I believe personally that needs to be done in the Teviot Valley. So we have visibility over what might need to be done in terms of CapEx investment. Should there be 100 sections developed down on our own or something, or 100 sections across the river, or further development to the north?
Yep.
We've got all the other things to consider, like hazard maps and all that
Yeah.
thing to carry on, but in terms of being prepared, and I guess looking at what, now we want to understand what that's going to mean to our ratepayers long term. So there's always little bits and pieces, I think, that coming out of the LTP for us, rather than, we haven't identified any real big ticket items at the moment that need, we're putting things in place that will give us guidance, I think.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, your point there around the water stuff is, well, that's a piece you'd include in your master plan.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
And that's
Where that would sit.
part.
Correct. Yeah. The year plan.
The other one is just, I think, keeping our eyes on, when, you know, eventually we have a cycle trail that links up between Alex and the Teviot, and I think that could be part of the master plan as well, because that will happen at some point one day. And then I think that's that whole community thing, when we get those cyclists coming from Queenstown all the way through to Dunedin, we're going to have that demand, and therefore we're going to need to then have more accommodation and restaurants opening in the evening, and so there will be more demand through cycling, and I think that's something that we should be on our radar as well.
Accommodation, people keeps talking about accommodation, but we're going to be able to provide it. And that's not the houses, it's the infrastructure for it.
Seriously looked, accommodation for cyclists a few years ago, seriously looked at, a bird camp. Because birds are awesome, you can put them up an hour and a half. Feed them up and stay on, they're a little bit of fun, they're different. And then when the season is over, they can be packed up and put away. And that way, you have compost and toilets, you've got almost no serious full-time infrastructure. And then when it comes to restaurants and feeding the cyclists, maybe looking outside of the square rather than having restaurants is to have people who have commercial kitchens that want to bring all the meals, and maybe a communal space for people to have the meals on, or delivered to, so that it keeps the actual infrastructure with your bricks and mortar, plumbing, electricity and stuff like that to a minimum.
So 103 is already doing that, so they are delivering those meals, but I think having one restaurant in town would be asking too much.
No, you're right. I understand that, but in Winchester, you can fire a shotgun down the street and put nothing. I know about it.
Yeah, look, that's something, I know the tourism team are thinking around a lot. Oh, that's my own 5-minute warning.
So listening to us, Dawn,
Yes.
are we communicating the types of things that you're wanting to hear?
Yeah, I think.
I guess our needs is in for the LTP process better. Is it clear to you what you're hearing from us? It's sort of not $1 million spent on a new water pipe.
No.
It's the longer term.
Yeah.
We are taking the long term.
And, I mean, plan change 19, we will be notified that, and there's some appeals still to be heard, but I was just actually looking at that because there is growth areas allocated within Teviot, up by Lake Rock. Growth areas, quite a bit of growth areas there that still are yet to be developed. So there's quite a lot of untapped demand here that's been provided for under plan change 19. So there's quite a bit of thinking that's going on to
support what you think you do.
I think, sorry.
I mean, the one thing that I have in my mind is the sports hub, sports and recreation hub. That's something that's reasonably new, but you know, we're talking long-term plan over 9 years, so we might have it finished a lot sooner than that. Not have it finished in the next 2 years.
Well, it's flat.
Yeah.
So upgrading the domain is currently council owned, and we're saying that we look after that and stop it from getting into even worse disrepair. So it's a revamp of it, and it will still remain in council ownership. But we've taken steps to see if we can enhance it significantly and have a really really nice environment for locals and visitors, and create new events to come to the valley as well.
Yeah.
Be it, there's no tennis here at the moment, so that sort of thing.
And there's a lot of visitors at North Bay. If you don't know what North Bay is like in the summer.
There's 600 a night there in the summer.
Yeah.
And
It's
then
fabulous.
and there's a tournament every year that's 2,500 people. Plus we're trying to create something as well that brings people there. And maintain some current infrastructure that's in, getting towards the stage of disrepair, that it's almost end of life if we don't look after it.
So, with all these things, they don't just magic themselves up. Have you had a thought about, obviously we can provide some guidance on this as well, but thought about budget related to developing this master plan?
No.
Okay.
I don't know how much these master plans cost. I mean, some of it will be our ideas, but we'd get some professional ideas and get some council
Yeah,
ideas. Yeah.
Gareth?
So anything between 100 and 200,000.
No, not doing
Anything between 100 and 200,000. Depending on what sort of depth and
Yeah.
you want out of the master plan.
Yeah.
I mean, you can do one for 50.
Yeah.
But you're going to get a very light high-level concept up.
Yeah.
If you want anything with substance and depth, a lot of investigation, kind of understanding that.
Yeah.
You could do that in stage process. You couldn't.
Yeah.
The more you stage it, the more it will cost you.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
So, yeah.
But does it take elapsed time? Does it take 6 months? Does it take 18 months or 2 years to produce a master plan like that?
Again, depending on the brief, some of them can take years, but, you can, Gordy and I just engage consultants through a master plan. The race is a much more limited system, right?
The race course here.
In and, that's got a $50,000 budget, but it's very localized and, is, dealing with one aspect of the market, which is recreation, the sports fields and that type of stuff. So, you can get that work done, that's going to be done over 4 months.
Yeah.
4 months. So, if you just think that costs $50,000, right? So that sort of gives you an idea of what a master plan could cost.
So where does that budget come from?
It's not operational. So you don't have to.
They're still trying to figure that out.
So usually what happens is it becomes operational, and then if the project comes to fruition and it forms part of CapEx, if it goes nowhere, it remains operational.
But going forward, I don't think it would form part of the Cromwell ward anymore, and digitization,
Yeah.
it would fall under the district.
Sucks.
We think about the Cromwell master.
Well, that's why it's going to be my
Yeah.
question. Do we know the cost of that? This Cromwell master plan?
And it's,
There
and it included a spatial plan. It included a
I thought it
spatial
was about no.
plan.
It was definitely a significant cost at the Cromwell, uni board at that time, even though planning functions was required, they decided, they didn't want to.
That was my sense as well.
So, I mean, that's,
So,
that in itself poses a question around, how that would be funded and whether it's funded out of our own reserve. For how we go about doing.
Yep.
And what the impact that has on race every year that we decided that we should be doing.
Yeah.
So I guess by tabling it now, it's starting a thought process.
Yeah.
Not only amongst ourselves, but with you guys as well. And we'll be looking for guidance on how that's developed and dare I say the cost benefit.
Yeah.
And I say that because cost benefit can have a lot of inferences that don't account for social.
Absolutely. Sorry, Rebecca.
I just want to, because the Teviot spatial plan is about, it hasn't quite got council yet, it's due,
Very
it doesn't have, it doesn't have a calendar year. I think that, and you guys have had the presentation on that, as Dylan indicated, we're waiting to come and do, we're waiting for that to come and do the community plan. And it may well, and I've got a bunch of like 5K for that. I need some of these guys zeros. But it's, the process of that is facilitating a community conversation about what are the important things for your community. And so I think through that very modest budget process, we will start to hear some of the community things that you want. And I think then once you've got, you're seeing the community plan process line up with the spatial plan process, which is about the planning for future growth sort of stuff, and how do those two things merge together. I don't know if that's going to be helpful, but I think it will be.
I think that's a large chunk of exactly what it is you're talking about. But I'm actually looking at it right now online, what was briefed back in September of last year. And this goes to part of because it is the Teviot spatial plan. Yeah, so that will be complementary to what you are seeing.
And it may be that I even believe we've started. One of the benefits of it coming, I guess, from the community as opposed to being offered from council or the ABC is that we are really trying to reignite the interest of the community and take the communication and the responsibility for it back from the community to you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the whole community.
I mean, you've tried to stimulate through previous community plans, and
Yeah.
the last one was 2011,
Yeah, yeah.
and it sat there and sat there and sat there and didn't think about it. So what I was sort of trying to, they stopped and they started. I think we're definitely.
I think, yeah, I think, but you've got a really active community.
We have, but we're sitting there for 10 years and not be reviewed.
We've got an interesting community in the fact that we've got a lot of old people who are not going to involved.
Yep.
You know, and then we have a lot of people who live and work in our community part-time, who also are not involved in our community decisions with our RSC workers. We don't have a large, like Alex Cromwell, you know, wait, Alex has got a lot of young families. Cromwell is a growing area. Manitoto is probably a little bit like us, it's actually storm. And so to get plan out 10 years when most of your community is already at the age of 70. When you're 70, you don't start planning out your 10-year plan. You know, so the demographics of a long term here are a little bit different.
That's right. That's right. That's what we have to do.
Yeah.
That's
We don't want the 80-year-olds
Yeah,
to
it's
do it.
hard to.
That's what we're trying to change.
Yeah,
In the interest of time, because I think we've kind of got where we want to, and there is definitely some really good stuff happening between the spatial plan, the community plan. We've heard what you have said. We'll go away and kind of work this up and see what it can look like and come back to you. But I think there's some awesome stuff.
I think, you know, like, and I pick a number, but $100,000 a year for 2 years to create some sort of
It's an investment.
plan for the health,
Exactly.
you know. You know, I review it, Rebecca said 5,000 ain't gonna cut it, 50,000 on the race course, you know. think it's fair that you might spend 100,000 on a whole valley or a whole town.
Yeah.
Um,
And you've got one of the things we've done.
Yeah, that's right, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, right, we'll move on to the next one. We know you love this one. Grants. So, to bring you up to speed, just with yesterday's conversation that happened around museums, just so you know, so council has given direction to include in the long-term plan consultation that grants for all museums would be a council-funded activity. So essentially, the community board doesn't fund through the community grant the museum as it currently does now in the future, should that be approved through the LTP process. So that will relieve you of some financial pressure. That was taken, but yes, sorry, that will also reduce your budget by the corresponding amount.
Which budget?
Your community grant budget.
So all the grants currently museum sitting in the board budgets, they will be transferred because it's not new rates. It's transferring where the rate currently sits and putting it into the grants budget.
And also that's
Into
not
the museum budget, everybody.
so you're saying we wouldn't have a grants budget?
You would, but for minus $2,000, which is currently going to your museum.
Well, that was discretionary because they applied. There might be another group that applies. You can't take 2,000 off and say that's.
No, because part of the reasoning was that if we don't put the museum budget into the council district budget, we would be paying twice the museum. We'd be giving out $2,000 grant to our museum, plus we'd be paying in our rates for the districtised museums. So it makes more sense that that money sits at council level so that we're not
I'm not saying
paying it twice.
Yeah, but to correspondingly reduce our grants budget just sounds.
Yes.
I mean, it's 5,000 at the moment.
That's our choice.
So, well, so this is,
And I think
so,
Well,
Yeah.
are we talking about it now?
yeah, that's exactly what we're talking about, right?
At the end of the last workshop, of the grants workshop, and you put up that hypothetical question. That was my hypothetical question. That was already in play with Christopher Luxon, who's already been talking about, the getting rid of the wellbeing agenda, and the grants go with that. So I didn't know that.
No.
Yes, he does.
No. There, no.
He did, but yeah, I know, but that's coming from government.
No.
So what government?
It was 100% coming from ratepayers. They're not happy about rate increases. One way to reduce the rate increase is not do grants.
So like to say that the grants thing.
Okay, so moving on, because that's not what it was about. So what we're talking about now is your grant pots. What you want those to be for your community. Now, all I was signaling and Rebecca was signaling is what would happen currently in this current financial year is your grant pot would reduce by the corresponding amount that went to the museum if it goes to be a council thing. Now, we go into a new financial year, into a new LTP. What does your grant pot look like?
Or so a little espresso cup, actually.
What's this say?
But
A little espresso cup.
we have right now with your reserves because you are underspending your grants.
Yeah. Well, that's a circular argument. We tried to put it up last year and you said you can't.
Yeah, so that doesn't, they have got reserves, but it's part of the bigger reserve conversation.
Yeah.
So that.
What was in about 20?
Yeah.
Which means if you allocate so much each year, you're not even spending what we're giving you. So if you want more, you need to spend what we give you.
So we've had a number of times around the rationale around the accrual in reserves of our budgets. And it's been primarily because people have seen there being so much and they haven't applied.
I know, but the way the ratings works is you rate for what you're going to spend. You don't rate for what you want to save.
Yeah.
For 2 years out.
Exactly.
And part of the reason we didn't obviously the grant budget up in the past was because we were really mindful of rates going up.
Correct.
And a few years ago, we bought the swimming pool and we came out of rates 250K to go towards the swimming pool. And that was also part of the reason we didn't also put the grants budget up 15,000 because that would have just had, an even bigger flow on effect to our ratepayers. So that was part of the reason you can put the grants budget up.
this has a direct impact on your ward rate payments. It's a ward-based rate.
That's the argument.
It is now the only ward-based rate. So whatever you do with this is an immediate impact on your rate pay.
So the 12,000 to 1,200 to 1,600 rating units. We put it up by, that would be between $3 and $4 a unit. Put it up by.
Yeah, but it sounds like you have.
Yeah. It's been so much time talking about $5,000 or $3,000.
Yeah.
It's just, it ain't right that a community like us should have $3,000, you know? It's just-
Well,
Maybe you think it is, maybe you think it is.
Why you would,
We can leave it at 5. We can leave it at 5, and the museum doesn't come out of it, so that technically gives us 3 more a year, because the museum wouldn't be coming to us. Get a grant.
but the museum needs more.
Or
They would go through
they
capital.
can go
They go through a
So
different.
they go directly to you
Correct.
after the-
and you will get it.
No, that's more, next
Next
council.
step of the conversation.
That is the problem. That, I mean, that's their view is that they won't get if they can't come to us.
So the Metropolitan Museum needs, need more money than ours does, and they go to council now.
All of
Most of the times, they, you know, there's a chance that
Council will have to weigh up the priority of the district, as it does for everything. Voting, 3 waters, where's the priority, and justification, how we're gonna fund that. You respective community boards need to put in where they see their priority. But, you know, if we keep adding to our budget, our rates don't come down. They keep going up high.
And we are holding, in a holding pattern ourselves, like, as I said before, we aren't looking to spend $1 million on infrastructure. We're not trying to, I guess, forward invest.
So,
We are trying to maintain
yeah,
our very functional community group.
so based on what Sally had just said before, retaining the 5,000 community grant funds that we currently have, which the museum won't be touching, presuming that process follows through, and retaining the $2,000 promotions grant. How does that sit with the board? Because remembering the conversation we just had prior, that you may have a bill coming for a master plan that could be directly applied to your ratepayer once again as well.
And savings through, not mowing burn should be also factored into that whole equation.
Yes,
You know what
although I
I'm
think
saying? It's sort of like Mark pointed out, we're talking about $5,000.
Yep.
The rating impact compared with not spending $1 million on infrastructure, like say $100,000 for a master plan. So this has got more social value than it has dollar value.
Great.
I don't know what, any other way to describe it.
just pointing out as well that saving from the boom is a reallocation that I mentioned before. Right?
Those are things that people will look. You know, so
Yeah, I'm just making sure we're clear on
we,
it's
we,
not a saving.
we all understand the workings of it, but not the rate payers don't necessarily.
And there'll also be an uplift in the swimming pool, the cost of the swimming pool.
Exactly.
Factored into the rate pay here.
Yeah.
So make that more rate.
So we just need to steer from yourselves. Where do you think the grant pots should go? Are they right now? The staff recommendation would be yes. They are. We're not getting over inundated with community grant or promotions grant requests. But this is your grants, so you can give us.
Do you need numbers right now?
It would be very helpful, so we can start factoring it into the budgets. And obviously, this one is one conversation we've had for 2 years now, so I get a sense we've already got a feeling where.
The next time that we've had it, we've always wanted to increase it.
In my own experience of being my third term, we've never had an oversubscription of those budgets in the time I've been here. So, I think this year, yeah. I'm just saying, it's how it's been.
And cool, I mean, when we tried to spend some of our underspent for previous years at the last round, we were told we couldn't.
Now you got.
What? No, that was just a technicality. It was fine.
So we still have that 14,000?
That was still
Yes.
big.
So that,
Oh, we have spent.
Yeah, we spent the money that we.
You spent like 1,600 of it or whatever. it was.
Not 14,000, yeah. So we've got $14,000 back up there.
Correct.
so we were told that we had 14,000 reserved, and then we were told we didn't. We didn't need.
No.
it.
You still have that amount in reserve.
That was just really the reason not to cost the grant budget out, because if we got oversubscribed and hit reserves, so it shouldn't be rating for more than we need when we've got reserves.
Well, let's see what I can see.
The technicality was around that it had been approved prior to that.
That's right.
Okay, cool.
So Mark's happy at 5 and 2. Sally's happy at 5 and 2.
Yeah.
Jill's happy at 5 and 2. Norm, not so happy.
No. I've been actively encouraging people to consider whether they can justify buying the grant, keep their groups going. One way that the ratepayer can provide for these communities. Yeah, I'm not going to, I think, it's a tool that this board can use to make it so as well. And if we don't give ourselves the opportunity to push the grants out into the community, we don't have to spend them, but what if
You do.
Technically,
That's
you
the
do.
problem.
By law, you do. You can't rate your ratepayer and take the money and not spend it because you're overrating.
Yeah.
So that's a bad thing. to get in.
Isn't that true? Isn't that true with every part of the budget?
You have to have a good reason because at the end of the financial year, like we just did yesterday with council, the money that we hadn't spent in capital and in operating, we had to justify to council why we wish to carry that over. And council could say no. But the reality is under the law, you have to work out what's the business going to cost, then raise the revenue rate for that, but no more. So we can't just pull in money to say we'll sit on it. You know, in fairness to the ratepayer, you take what you need.
So the justification is that the social value of this grant money, and it might be increasing it to 8,000 or 10,000, whichever we feel is appropriate, is that the intent is of that money. The intent is that money is allocated.
I guess it's got to be more than. I'm now looking at your reserve balance, closing balance, and you've got $20,000 in there, in your Roxburgh grants. And so if you want another 8,000, that's fine. But then you could have 28,000 sitting in there. So what I'm saying is,
the idea there is not to accrue anymore.
well, you've still got 20,000 to spend before you even include it.
This for the next 9 years.
No.
So
2
this is
years.
So, and only 2
2 years.
next 2 years. So if we had 5 and 2 for the next 2 years, plus our
What you've got in reserve.
20,000, then that probably suffices us for the next 2 years. And then come year 3, we sit around the table at an annual
It'll be the new
long-term plan and say, well, the last 3 years we spent 10,000 a year and we're getting really good community acceptance and social carry on for that.
If you spend those reserves by then, it gives you good justification for uplifting the future grants.
So what I'll do is now for 9 years, and really important, the whole 9 customer related to that. We can't like do that zero or anything like that, so the board's feeling comfortable that I've got in the same down all the 9 years.
No, not, the- I don't think.
No, but you could readdress that.
Well, I think that's exactly what Sas is saying, that in 9 years' time, we don't want a $5,000 and $2,000 budget.
No, so in 2 years you readdress it.
So say what you just said again, so what are you gonna put in for year 7, 8 and 9?
So that'd be $7,000.
Well, no,
It's
No.
basically a placeholder.
Yes.
It's a placeholder. If you reassess it at the long term plan. Question mark.
well, why did you bring it up? I don't understand.
So
What?
the concept of going to LTP budget
No.
is that, well, probably a 10-year budget, so we're doing a 9-year budget. In essence, we need to put numbers in there, like, years out after more holding numbers, which we do in 2 years' time, we'll get to the LTP again. If I can leave it zero, I'll take your direction on what you want me to put in there, but I need direction from this board at this stage that does impact, every activity impacts our overall debt. So we need, direction from the board and beyond here, the next 2 years, what number do we want?
We're gonna want more.
There was a move in the past for inflation adjustment.
It's a really good point. We do, and, through the model, there is an inflation adjustment. So we naturally do that anyway by, inflation adjustment.
Yeah, so do you affect CPI and,
I just wonder, with the reserves in your grant sitting at 20,000 right now.
Yeah.
Whether you can justify increasing your grant in the next 2 years, we have to do the same process in 2 years' time.
That's right.
I would want to see that money drawn down and spent before you start increasing more. I don't think that's in fairness to your own company.
okay, I mean, that's a good point.
I think so too, and especially if we don't want to burn our rate payer, there's more rates than we need to burn them.
However, we do need to be sure we're not going to lose the opportunity.
No, you don't. You get the chance in 2 years' time to review.
That's cool.
So you put these
Changed
in.
a lot for us in the last 12 months. With digitalisation.
Yeah.
I use that word. And I'd hate to see our discretion around grants disappear in the next 2 years. And us being stuck with finding things.
That's part of the review process, and so the new LTP process. And
Can I just ask a general question? Looking at a lot of councils, they've spent an awful lot of money on doing things and plans and then free waters, and then the government's changed things. The new government has changed things and lots of money seems to have gone to waste. We're in the same, council in the same position where a lot of money is spent on, say, free water plans or SNAs or whatever, and then suddenly the rules have changed.
Yeah, well, that's the reality, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the cost of
I mean, we have to comply with the law, and if the government changes the law, we have to comply with the new law. So there would have been quite a chunk of change spent on free waters. What's the $1 billion at government level?
We've all that money done.
Well, we've carried over $173,000 to help us from the money that the government gave us to help us with this next round of work. So in the water work we've been doing with the region right now, we've probably spent $30,000 of that 173. If we have to create a water services entity, we'll be spending all of that and some. So there's a significant cost of water.
So just bring this conversation back to a thing we need to solve.
So, question, hang on, we'll go for a while. How did the Vincent board approach it?
I haven't had this discussion yet because our meeting was the day before the museum thing for council, so our meeting was on Tuesday, and we had Wednesday, but we gave fear that we didn't
Essentially
want
retain
the same level minus the museum.
minus whatever happens with the museum.
But then would DCD look to review that in 2 years' time?
Right, so
Because
then,
we were.
we're heading at the moment.
If you could put, easily put $20,000 in there,
but you would have to sell that to your ratepayer. You're gonna pay more, but there'll be more money on offer for community group. And that's the challenge that each of the communities is going to face, but there is so much pressure on funders for these groups, and it's becoming more and more difficult to get funding.
Oh, and also another part of the concern I haven't even voiced yet.
And so part of Vincent is they've got a bigger rate pool and same with Cornwall, so their budget bigger. Got more people that live in that area, well, we're rating.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, we need to
I
get,
don't
it-
think you want to.
we need to get to
I
a
don't think
point
you
of a
want to go there
decision,
because ours will still be infinitesimal.
because we've got a lot to go.
So proposing the decision.
Well, my proposal is to retain these at this level. You also look
For the next 2
for the
years.
next 2 years, noting that there will also be a CPI adjustment for them. You look to spend what's in the reserves, and then when we have this conversation in 2 years' time, there's your justification for your uplift in the future.
Will you still be here? Will you remember that?
I will try to. Gee, that's put me on the spot, no? But it's being recorded, just in case.
We might not be here.
Yeah, that's right. This is not a decision, right? Because obviously that's going to be ratified through LTP. But this is the steer for what goes into the budget.
How are you feeling, Mark?
Oh, yeah, we revisit.
Easier. Sure.
Yeah.
No?
Thank you. Right, lunch is here. So too is QP. QP, do you want to start talking in a sec, but give members a chance to grab some lunch, and you just talk through lunch? That's cool. Okay. Cool.
So lunch and you're doing some.
How long does it take up to,
You're good.
I'm not going to say.
You were doing a lot of balance stuff.
Yeah.
You don't have to save your head and put on
No,
the ground.
the recording.
Oh, we're still working.
Yeah.
But we know what their reserves are.
Well, so much about it.